looked at me, she didn't say a word, but she's evil as she can be. Oh, she's evil, she put a spell on me. Yeah, she's evil like nothing I ever seen.
The woman in this van committed crimes that sparked fury and sent shockwaves through Plymouth and beyond. A nursery worker, trusted by parents to care for their children, she had in fact been abusing them.
Vanessa George was conceived in a barn in Plymouth by a young mother and a musician. Born on March 30th, 1970, her birth name was Vanessa Sylvia Marks, and she would become one of the most depraved women pedos in British history. As this case does involve some very dark crimes against children and has many predators in it, viewer discretion is advised. Hello, my name is Holly. Welcome to the Murder She Shed. This is the place where you can hear rarely discussed true crime right from my she shed. And I also like to mention I have another channel called Strange She Shed. I will leave the link in the comments. It's just a place where I can get out of true crime for a bit, relax, be myself, and just have fun over there. If you'd like to go over there and subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. As always, thanks for supporting me here at Murder She Shed and Strange She Shed if you decide to do that. Well, let's begin. Vanessa's father had left the family when she was young, and her mother died from cancer when she was just 15 years old. After this, Vanessa went to live with her grandparents, and she became a sullen, withdrawn, overweight teen. She preferred not to shower and wore the same clothes for days on end. I mean, don't teens hit a certain age and do that? They forget a shower exists. Well, I know boys do because I raised two boys, and sometimes they get busy playing on the computer, forget all about the shower. And you have to give them a reminder. And sometimes they just sit in the shower way too long. And we won't go there. But you know, I'm glad my boys are grown now. I don't have to put up with those awful teen years anymore. But anyway, Vanessa was one of those teens that was always on the computer. She kind of slacked on her hygiene, and her grandmother didn't like this very much. Vanessa had been essayed by one of the men her mother allowed to babysit her when she was little, and so as a teen it caused her to be very forward with men and often quite blunt when talking about sex. She made some men uncomfortable. Vanessa was kind of a loudmouth, and she basically, whatever came out of her mouth, she didn't care. She just spoke what she felt, and sometimes TMI, especially when it comes to sexual things. She just spoke whatever she felt at the moment. So, as I said, Vanessa and her grandmother could not get along, so as soon as she turned 18, Vanessa took the money inherited from her mother and bought herself a house in order to get out from under her grandmother's control. The only thing that got her through the years of living with her grandmother was a boy named Andrew George. And soon after she bought the house, Andrew moved right in with Vanessa. On April 23rd, 1993, 23-year-old Vanessa got married to 25-year-old Andrew George. Vanessa announced she was pregnant right after the marriage. Her family would later say Vanessa seemed obsessed with having children. She wanted children right out of the gate. She just loved children, and she just wanted to start a family. And she named her two daughters that she had, who were born very close together, Pearl and Grace. 3 years after their marriage, Vanessa had already cheated on Andrew with his best friend. But he wouldn't find out about the affair for 6 more years. But he didn't leave her. He stuck with her, and they just rode out the affair. Vanessa was working as a secretary after the birth of her daughters, but hated her job, and because of her love for children, Vanessa decided she would like to work in childcare. So Vanessa took a few childcare classes and got her first job at Eford Preschool near her home. And then she became a teacher assistant at a primary school after that. And after that job came in, she started working at a nursery called Little Ted's. At Little Ted's, Vanessa's open, friendly demeanor soon made her a favorite by parents and staff alike, and she would soon become the special educational needs coordinator at her nursery. So to her co-workers and parents at the daycare, it was not strange when Vanessa began to offer to watch children at her home every Thursday when the child care was shut. So she began to tell parents, hey, I'll watch your child at my house on Thursday. I mean, why not? They trusted her. They thought fine, I'll send her over there. I mean, she watches her at daycare. What's the difference? So they trusted this woman with their children. By this time, Vanessa's weight had spiraled to around 250 pounds, and she felt that her appearance could no longer attract men. So at this point, she set up a little computer room and began communicating with men online, even though she was still married to Andrew. She had grown bored with Andrew and wanted more excitement in her life. Her daughters were now 11 and 13 years old, and so she had more time to herself and craved attention she had not gotten as a child. So she became V. George on Facebook and joined a dating app called Are You Interested? While Andrew and her daughters were watching TV a few feet away, she would be chatting up men online. Her online banner became increasingly explicit, and she talked openly about being in the market for no-strings fun and let men know she was up for anything. She soon met a married man, an IT worker named Colin Blanchard, whom she became obsessed with, and she soon would learn that he had also been essayed as a child. And this became like one way they can connect to each other, talk about what had happened to them as children. But instead of having bad feelings toward this actually excited. At least Colin. He enjoyed talking about the abuse that Vanessa had went through, and probably what he had been through. To talk to Colin, she opened a Hotmail account, and her username was Daddy's Princess 69. She opened this in order for her and Colin to be able to discuss their fantasies. Colin knew that Vanessa worked at a nursery, so he began telling Vanessa of his fantasies about children. Instead of running from the idea, Vanessa embraced Colin's fantasies. Colin began to ask Vanessa to take pictures of children in her care, which Vanessa responded, "What would you do for me if I did?" This is when Vanessa got a new phone in which she referred to as her fun phone and began to sneak children in the bathroom for nappy changes, as she called them. Vanessa didn't know Colin was a married man with a daughter of his own, and him and his wife were also foster parents. Colin had on his computer some of the most vile images of children and animals that ever existed. This would include a video of him with his own dog, a little Shih Tzu. Is that how you say it? I'm not sure. But I've always confused about that name. I feel like I'm saying shit. And you probably shouldn't say that when it comes to that dog. But anyway, I don't know. That might be how you pronounce it. Either way, they're a little dog. And he showed videos of his little dog and him abusing it. So disturbing. He had passed charges from having child images on his computer and had been on the sex registry for 5 years. But now he was taken off of it. So, yeah, he was all clear to start up his awful behavior again. Colin began to coerce Vanessa into sending more graphic photos of children, and the more graphic they became, the more he would smother her with attention, because she enjoyed the attention. He also would send videos and images of himself with children to Vanessa. He began asking Vanessa to drug her own 2 daughters and take pictures of them while they were sleeping, but Vanessa said only if they met in person first. "I'm willing to do that to my own flesh and blood if you'll just meet with me." Sick person. But Colin was not interested in Vanessa in a sexual way. She just had a lot to offer as a nursery teacher, and his interest was children. So he made excuses why he couldn't meet up with Vanessa. He was already getting what he wanted, and that was the pictures and images she was sending him. Vanessa began telling Colin about how she would like to kidnap a child for his pleasure in order to please Colin more. While at a park, Vanessa sent Colin a message that read, "This is like a gold mine here. So many children running free. I could snatch one and no one would know that they were even missing." After Colin knew he had Vanessa hook, line, and sinker, he told her about another woman he had met online who he described as being really dirty, filthy. This other woman was 39-year-old mother of 2 from Nottingham, Angela Allen. Angela was living in squalor with her children in the suburb of Nottingham with little furniture, only a few scraps of food. As a child, Angela had lived at the Nazareth House of Nottingham and was cared by nuns. She did not really have a home, so she lived in this orphanage. And this orphanage has a bad history of abuse. In fact, it was closed down for all the abuse that occurred in this place. So I need to do a video on that sometime. But she was so warped, Angela was, that she liked to watch while the nuns abused other children. Angela was a former prostitute, now living off benefits and spending her days on the computer while letting her 2 children, 2 and 3 years old, run wild throughout their filthy home. On her Facebook and most pictures, she was scantily dressed and boasted about thinking about sex 95% of the time. Colin decided it was time to introduce Vanessa to Angela, and their relationship would soon become a sick triangle of depravity and abuse. The 2 women both competed for Colin's affection, and Vanessa knew she had something that Angela did not, and that involved her line of work as a nursery worker. Vanessa hatched an evil plan in order to become Colin's favorite. While she was working, she was able to get 1 toddler alone, and she then abused the toddler with a toothbrush, a plastic golf club, and other instruments, and took photos to send to Colin. She would often do this at the daycare to different children. Then after she would get home from daycare, just feet from where her 2 daughters sat, she would download these images into the computer for Colin and Angela to look at. Vanessa ended up abusing over 30 children, some as young as 12 months old, all the way to 5 years old. Just taking advantage of these little innocent children. And supposed to be caring for them and taking care of them while their parents were working. It would just take a sick, depraved individual to even think of doing such a thing. She got so depraved that she even sent Colin a photo of her own now teenage daughter, which before she said she wouldn't do. At least not till they met, but eventually she did end up doing just that. The depraved triangle would finally be caught after Colin sent some emails to the women from a friend and business partner's computer and forgot to log out of his email. A few days later, in June of 2009, the friend would open his email and find Colin's emails that he had sent to the women. The images he saw almost made him vomit. He was just nauseous. He quickly contacted police, and they knew they needed to do a raid on Colin's home. And fortunately, Colin was out of town at the time. He was in Dubai for a business meeting. So they raided it, and the authorities found images of children 12 to 18 months, and Colin was quick to rat out V. George, who had sent him the images. It didn't take him long. After he came back, he was arrested, and he quickly ratted her out. First interview, first time he opened his mouth, it was her fault. She did it. She sent them to me like he was innocent as pie or something. They didn't know where to find V until they actually found an emblem on one of the children's shirts that was an emblem of Little Ted's nursery in Plymouth. Authorities quickly made their way to Little Ted's and closed down the daycare. They were not sure how many nursery workers this ring would involve. The nursery owner was horrified at the news. She had no idea that this was going on and allowed authorities into the daycare. They also quickly learned Vanessa's address and showed up at midnight to raid Vanessa's house. Andrew and the children had no idea what was going on as they stumbled out of bed. The officer asked Vanessa if she knew what was going on, and she nodded yes and replied, "I don't want my husband to know, though." Like this wasn't going to get out everywhere. I don't know what kind of naive business she had going on, but she quickly confessed to her husband, "Yeah, this is what I've been doing." And his mind was blown. He had no idea. He was in complete shock. They had 2 kids. He didn't know if something had happened to his kids. He was just sick. I can't even imagine. Officers who had years of experience dealing with SA was even shocked at the images. The emails contained discussions of S&M on little children. Vanessa in her first police interview was very open, but the next day she grew sullen and would say no comment.
Can you introduce yourself, please?
I'm Vanessa George.
Your date of birth, Vanessa?
30th of the 3rd, 70.
I can see you're upset.
I'm fuming with myself, really. I am, because it's the epitome, isn't it? It's like absolutely disgusting.
You're being very brave this evening.
I wasn't doing it for like enjoyment or anything like that. sort of said, I said like I work in a nursery and things like that, and it was just take some pictures or something like that. And I've gone, yeah, all right then. And I'd say, well, what would you do for me if I'd done that for you? Like, joking.
Yeah.
And I'd say, you have to put a ring on my finger to make me do things like that. And it was like, you know, I knew it was wrong when I was doing it.
What's wrong about it?
It was vile.
So how many pictures do you think you've taken?
Probably lots.
How many's lots?
I wouldn't honestly say, but it was...
100? 200?
I don't know. It wasn't 200.
Wasn't 200, okay. Are there any children you haven't taken a picture of?
There's a few of them, yeah. I just used to take, like, just... Not all of them, no.
Not all of them?
No.
Help the families who are out there now, stressed, worried, concerned for their children. Please help us and tell us who you took pictures of. Vanessa, please. For them. As a mother, you'd want to know. Don't you care?
No comment.
The parents of the children that were abused were absolutely traumatized when they learned what kind of monster had been taking care of their children. Angela Allen learned from the news that Colin and Vanessa had been arrested, and it took a week for officers to figure out that Angela was the third suspect involved, and surprisingly, she had made no attempt to destroy evidence. On her messages sent to Colin, she talked about rape and sex with animals, and after arrest, never shed a tear. She is just cold, really maybe the worst of the three. Vanessa George spent 10 years in prison and was released in 2019. She now goes by the name Hazel and dyes her hair quite often to avoid recognition. Vanessa will never be allowed to work with children again, thank God. And she was placed on the sex offenders register the rest of her life. She still refuses to name the babies and toddlers that she abused, and because the images did not show the faces of the children, the parents are left to wonder if their child was the one violated. Her ex-husband and two daughters disown Vanessa and want nothing to do with her. Andrew insists he is a broken man, claiming he will bear the mental scars of her crimes for the rest of his life. Colin Blanchard parole board meeting was February 8th, just yesterday in fact. He will know in 14 days whether he can be released from prison. Angela Allen was released in 2020 after serving a little over 10 years for her involvement. Two other women who have been involved with Colin have already been released. Tracy Lyons, 41, Tracy Dauber, 44. Lyons was jailed for 7 years and Dauber was jailed for 4 years for their involvement in the ring. He had many women that he used to meet his sadistic, disgusting predator desires, fantasies. Just an awful man. I personally think he needs to stay in prison for the rest of his life, because I think he'll just re-offend these children. And you know, I was SA'd as a child by a neighbor of my grandma's, and so I'm very much for sexual offenders to stay in prison forever. Lucky for me, the man who did that to me was killed in a car wreck actually a few years after he SA'd me. I was 6 or 7 when it happened. He was only 20-something when he got killed in that car wreck. And I was kind of upset with myself because my instant reaction was, I'm glad he's dead. And then I thought, what kind of person am I to feel that? Am I as bad as him? No, I don't think so. I think I deserve to feel that way. And I think these children that were victimized deserve to get their justice too. I don't think he should be released. I don't even think the women should have been released. I'm just worried that they're going to offend again. It's just, the whole case is just disturbing. Alright guys, I love y'all and sorry it took me so long to make another video. In the next few weeks I'm going to be so busy. You know, I had a tornado, blew my old house away and we're rebuilding. Well, I'm going to start moving back into the house pretty soon. So my life is going to be chaos for a little while and I'm going to post when I can, but I can't tell you how often. I'm going to do my best. I love y'all and thanks for not giving up on me. And have a great, great weekend, I guess, by the time I get this out. Love y'all. Bye. Lay down. Oh. Where's the sun coming from? I don't even have any sun in here right now. Vanessa George. Oh shit. I'm gonna get this right. Hey, get out of the leaves, you two. Max, Simon. Max, buddy. My mic's fine. It's my stupid stand. Name was Vanessa Sylvia Marks. Shh. Get over there. Get over there. Well, get somewhere, Max. Really? You're too fat to jump up there? I'm not helping you. If you're that fat, you should try to lose some weight. Buddy's deaf. He can't hear me. He's too old and he's deaf. And he has not a clue what I'm saying right now when I say lay down. He doesn't even know. Hey, look at me. Look at me. Hey, he's worried about peanuts. I went to a steakhouse last night, and now you're growling. And they have the ones with the peanuts, Texas Roadhouse. Well, if you're not from around here, you may not know. Well, they got peanuts. You can just throw the shells in the floor. Well, apparently I did that in my she shed, too, because I think it's okay to throw my shells in the floor here. And Buddy's trying to eat them, because he's that fat. Do some sign language. Lay down. Lay down. Buddy, when he don't want to listen, he won't look at me. Buddy. He's doing it finally. He did not want to, though. And Max is half hanging off the bed. This is Max. He's gained too much weight. We're going to attempt this again for the 50th time. Hello, welcome to the Murder She Shed, where my dogs just take over and you hear true crime as they do just whatever they want. Sorry. They're just driving me nuts today.
She put a spell on me, some kind of hex, some kind of voodoo. I was gonna be next. I got up and walked over to her. She looked at me, she didn't say a word, but